They got a pass rush that's going to make teams, the quarterback, throw the ball quicker than he wants to. Mitchell is the kind of guy that'll take it.
According to our guy Mel Kiper Jr., the Philedelphia Eagles had one of the best drafts this past week, and Kiper gave Philly an A grade for their 2024 class. They made 8 trades during the draft and actually ended up with each of Mel Kiper's top 2 cornerbacks, Quinyon Mitchell in round 1 and Cooper DeJean in round 2.
The Philadelphia Eagles just became exactly what the NFL feared after having an incredible draft and retooling after a terrible ending to a very promising season. In this video, I'm going to talk about everything from where last season went wrong to why I think this team is ready to shake up the NFL after a great offseason. But before I begin, I would really appreciate it if you would drop a like and subscribe. It only takes 5 seconds, plus you can always change your mind. We are on the road to 20k subscribers, and with your support, I believe we can get there super fast. So, the Eagles already put together a great draft, and Howie Roseman is once again showing his greatness. He's not only gotten great value at extremely great positions of need, but he's also made moves to go get them. This just shows that the Eagles are once again all in, which obviously is a good sign. They had some big needs heading into the draft, and people were skeptical about if they'd be able to fill those holes or not. And I can let you know right now, with what they've done so far, I think they are ready to compete with the best of the best. And I really do think this is going to be one of the scariest teams in the NFL, even with how they collapsed at the end of last year. But at the time, they still had one of the best records in the league and made the playoffs, so you know they have a talented roster. Usually a collapse like that has to do with something in the locker room. At the end of the day though, the outcome of last season was super disappointing to the fans and everyone in the organization. One of the main obvious reasons for their downfall on the field was their defense. They lost a few guys in the previous offseason before, and even though it didn't seem like a big deal that would affect this team much at the time, it really did end up ending their season. Once other teams had them figured out on the scouting report, they would get burned all over the field. The Eagles' defense was one of the worst units in all of football, and old retired running backs could have probably carved them up. And because of that, they had to really focus on stopping the run, which left them vulnerable to the passing attack and vice versa. They went out and got CJ Gardner-Johnson, who we all know is one of the best safeties in the NFL that sees the field very, very well. Honestly, in terms of the safety room, I already like what they had with Reed Blankenship and Sidney Brown, but this addition will add a lot of talent and will make them deeper. So with that being said, coming into the draft, everyone knew the Eagles were going to go defense heavy, and they honestly had a better draft than even I expected. I know after every draft, people say, oh, that team had a really good draft, and half the time, they are completely wrong. But I truly do like some of the guys they got. I think they got great value, and obviously filled positions of need. And what really helped them is the fact that the first 15 picks of the draft were all offensive players. It was like perfect case scenario. There were players available that normally would have gone top 15 to even top 10. They were able to take one of the best corners in this draft in Quinyon Mitchell. Quinyon Mitchell, if you didn't know, comes out of Toledo, and he doesn't only have great size to be able to play the boundary corner position, but he also is one of the most athletic corners that we've ever seen. He's going to add a lot of juice to the secondary that is getting a little bit older, so I expect him to no doubt come in and play week 1 and play pretty good with all things considered, and it's going to allow the Eagles to not have to put James Bradberry on the field as much with him starting to regress. The only thing I could see people having against him is maybe that he's a bit of a gambler, so he's obviously going to try to go for interceptions, so sometimes he can get beat over the top. But I like gambling corners because interceptions can completely change the outcome of a game, and I would never stop a corner from being aggressive. So after this pick, I really felt like they got the corner of the future that they wanted. He's going to help out a ton, but what I didn't expect to happen was then for the Eagles to be able to get another elite corner to pair with him, because I just didn't see one falling to the second round, but man did one fall, and the Eagles found a way to get him. Howie Roseman is just that guy, and he's not scared to make moves, and he showed us that once again by trading up to the 40th overall pick. To get him in the second round is an absolute unreal steal. He's good at coming downhill and making plays, and on top of that, he's really good at ball hawking as well, because if you go back to his 2022 season, he was able to record 5 interceptions, with 3 of them being pick sixes, which just shows how talented of a player he really is. I really just can't believe the Eagles were able to get this guy in the second round, because he's going to be able to come in and make a huge impact on day 1, and the fact you were able to make a secondary this much better in just 2 rounds of the draft is unbelievable. This definitely makes the Eagles secondary go from being one of the worst secondaries in the NFL to a very respectable one, considering you still have Darius Slay, who can play at an extremely high level, you have CJ Gardner-Johnson, and now you have Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, who are both really good corner prospects to go along with all that. This is exactly what the Eagles needed to do, because when you pair a good secondary with a very good pass rush like the Eagles have, you're going to give offenses a lot of trouble. And I think these changes might shock a lot of opposing offenses after what they saw from this unit in 2023. And talking about that pass rush, I feel like this is going to be the best season yet for this group. You got Milton Williams, Jordan Davis, and Jalen Carter, who I really expect to make a name for himself this season after putting up 6 sacks his rookie season with limited snaps. And even the guys behind them at linebacker can put pressure on the QB as well. I know I've said it way too many times, but I think this defense, with what they've drafted so far, is going to be extremely good. And when you pair that with an offense like the Eagles have already built, this team is going to be able to contend just like they did in the 2022 season and most of last year. They already have their franchise quarterback in Jalen Hurts, who I know didn't have a great season last year, but I'm pretty sure everyone expects him with a new offensive coordinator to be able to bounce back and play really good football once again. And then on top of that, you have an offense that's loaded with talent all over it, and they just added Saquon Barkley to it. They have a true number 1 receiver in AJ Brown, then they have Devontae Smith, who's probably the best number 2 receiver in the entire NFL. They have an elite receiving threat at tight end in Dallas Goedert, and then they also went out and added Paris Campbell and Devontae Parker to give Hurts even more weapons to work with, which just makes me even more confident in this offense. They will easily be in the top 10, if not the top 5 range in the league. I think people are way undervaluing what Kellen Moore brings to the table as an offensive mind, because I think he's going to be way more creative and is going to have opposing defenses on their heels all game, as opposed to the stale offense the Eagles ran for the most part all of last year. Looking at the Eagles' schedule in 2024, they will have to go through the toughest division in the NFL in the AFC North, so it's going to be important for them to at least split those 4 games. And they will have to take advantage of and beat up on teams like the Commanders, Giants, Panthers, and Falcons. I think overall the Eagles have a pretty easy path, with all things considered, to make the playoffs, but once they get there, they need to be prepared for whatever could come their way, because other teams are gonna take it to them. Let me know in the comments below how you felt about what the Eagles did this offseason, and if you think they are a team that truly can be a real contender in 2024. To me, I just think they had such a good draft and got great value, and obviously bringing in Saquon Barkley was super exciting. That's all I got for this one. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, I will see you all later.